SuperBrawl was an annual professional wrestling pay-per-view event in World Championship Wrestling during the month of February from 1991 through 2001. Along with Starrcade, Bash at the Beach, The Great American Bash and Halloween Havoc, SuperBrawl was booked to be one of WCW's flagship pay-per-views. The first SuperBrawl was in May, but it switched to its annual month of February in 1992 as it made more sense for the event name. SuperBrawl is a pun on the Super Bowl, which usually took place around that time. It was the next to last WCW PPV and has the rights since owned by the WWE after it bought the promotion's intellectual properties in March 2001. Sting holds the record for most appearances at the pay-per-view with 8 SuperBrawls. SuperBrawl dates and venues. Results: SuperBrawl I, SuperBrawl 2. SuperBrawl 2 took place on February 29, 1992 from the Milwaukee Theater at the Mecca in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This was Lex Luger's final match in WCW until 1995. He joined the World Bodybuilding Federation and later the World Wrestling Federation after this match between Ron Simmons and Cactus Jack. Abdullah the Butcher came into the ring and double-teamed Simmons with Cactus until Junkyard Dog came out to make the save. SuperBrawl 3. SuperBrawl 3 took place on February 21, 1993 from the Asheville Civic Center in Asheville, North Carolina. This event marked the return of Ric Flair to WCW. Davey Boy Smith made his WCW debut during the show. The Heavenly Bodies replaced the Wrecking Crew due to an agreement by WCW Executive Vice President Bill Watts and Smoky Mountain Wrestling Commissioner Bob Armstrong on an earlier episode of WCW Main Event. The Heavenly Bodies SMW Tag Team Championship was not on the line, making it a non-title match. Max Payne was disqualified in his match against Dustin Rhodes after he pulled the referee into Rhodes to attempt to break an abdominal stretch and throwing Rhodes over the top rope. Payne replaced the injured Ron Simmons. After Barry Windham's victory over the Great Muta, Ric Flair attempted to place the NWA World Heavyweight Championship belt around Windham's waist, but Windham refused to let him. Big Van Varda's WCW World Heavyweight Championship was not on the line in the main event, while the match was not sanctioned by WCW. Big Van Vader touched the fourth corner after being propelled into it by Sting to win the match. SuperBrawl Live E. SuperBrawl Live E took place on February 20, 1994 from the Albany Civic Center in Albany, Georgia. This event, along with SuperBrawl Revenge, was one of only 2 SuperBrawls never released on home video. Jimmy Garvin replaced the injured Michael Hayes in the match against Johnny B. Bad. After the match, Garvin attacked Bad and gave him the 911. SuperBrawl V. SuperBrawl V took place on February 19, 1995 from the Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. All the pre-PPV matches took place live on WCW Main Event. After the match between Stars and Stripes and the team of Romeo Valentino and Dino Casanova, Vader attacked all the wrestlers in the ring while searching for Hulk Hogan. SuperBrawl Vi. SuperBrawl Vi took place on February 11, 1996 from the Bayfront Arena in St. Petersburg, Florida. This event marked Brian Pillman's final match in WCW. In his I Respect You strap match against the Taskmaster, Pillman shouted, "I respect you, Bookerman," breaking kayfabe, before leaving the ring. All the pre-PPV matches took place live on WCW Main Event. As per the pre-match stipulations, Johnny B. Bad's victory resulted in him winning Diamond Dallas Page's remaining lottery money of $6.6 million for the doll, as well as retaining her services as a valet. In the WCW World Heavyweight Championship match, Ric Flair pinned Randy Savage after Miss Elizabeth turned on Savage by allowing Flair to hit him with one of her high heel shoes. SuperBrawl 7. SuperBrawl 7 took place on February 23, 1997 from the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. SYXX pinned Dean Malenko to win the WCW United States Championship after hitting him with the title belt. Eddie Guerrero interfered late in the match and tried to stop SYXX from hitting Malenko, but inadvertently caused Malenko to be hit. Buff Bagwell was disqualified when the NWO rushed the ring after a diamond cutter by Diamond Dallas Page. Jeff Jarrett pinned Steve McMichael after hitting him with a briefcase thrown to him by Deborah. As a result of this victory, Jarrett was allowed to join the Four Horsemen. Lex Luger did not come down to the ring for the WCW World Tag Team Championship match until late in the match after the Giant was powerbombed by Kevin Nash. Nash submitted to the torture rack, followed by the Giant pinning Scott Hall after a chokeslam. Eric Bischoff stripped Luger and Giant of the titles the next night on Nitro due to Luger not getting a proper medical clearance before Bischoff left the previous week's Nitro. Hollywood Hogan pinned Roddy Piper after Randy Savage interfered by breaking up a submission and giving Hogan brass knuckles to strike Piper with. Piper was originally awarded the decision by submission with a sleeper hold after Hogan failed to respond after having his arm raised 3 times. But referee Mark Curtis restarted the match after Hogan was ruled to have had his foot under the ropes. Hogan, however, clearly did not have his feet under the ropes when his hand fell the 3rd time. Savage was supposed to pull Hogan under the ropes but did so too late. Savage and Hogan then attacked Piper post-match and Savage joined the NWO. SuperBrawl 8. SuperBrawl 8 took place on February 22, 1998 from the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. A match was scheduled between Larry ZBYS ZKO and Louis Spicolli. It was cancelled following Spicoli's death a week before the pay-per-view. Rick Martel was originally booked to win the match against Booker T. However, he suffered a torn knee ligament after hitting his leg on the opposite turnbuckles due to a botched hip toss from Booker T. The winner of the match was to immediately defend the title against Saturn. Due to Martel's injury and the reworking of the finish, Saturn and Booker were forced to improvise the entire match. Steve McMichael suffered a broken arm during the course of his match against the British Bulldog. Lex Luger forced Randy Savage to submit with the torture rack. Elizabeth interfered while Luger first put Savage in the torture rack and pulled him down. Immediately after that, Scott Norton, Buff Bagwell, Bryan Adams, and Vincent rushed the ring and began attacking Luger. Hollywood Hogan then came out and called all 4 members of the NWO back to the locker room, thus leaving Savage alone in the ring. Scott Hall pinned Rick Steiner after an outsider's edge. Scott Steiner turned on Rick midway through the match and refused to help him fight off the outsiders. After the match, Scott handed the tag team title belts to the outsiders and joined the New World Order. In the main event, Sting pinned Hollywood Hogan after a Scorpion Death Drop. While Sting hit the move, Hogan kicked referee Nick Patrick and knocked him down. While the referee was down, Scott Norton, Buff Bagwell, Bryan Adams, Vincent, Conan, and Randy Savage came to the ring. Everyone except Savage went to attack Sting. As Hogan was trying to get up, Savage struck him with a spray can and left the ring. Sting scored the pin and won the match. SuperBrawl IX. SuperBrawl IX took place on February 21, 1999 from the Oakland Arena in Oakland, California. The match of Barry Windham and Kurt Hennig against Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko was the final of a double elimination tournament. Entering the match, Benoit and Malenko had already lost once while Windham and Hennig were undefeated. Malenko forced Windham to submit with the Texas Cloverleaf for the first fall. Windham pinned Malenko for the second fall and the championship after choking Malenko out with his belt. Kevin Nash pinned Rey Mysterio Jr. after an outsider's edge from Scott Hall. As a result of the match, Mysterio Jr. lost his mask. Had Conan and Mysterio won, Miss Elizabeth would have had her head shaved. This match was originally supposed to involve Lex Luger as Kevin Nash's tag team partner, accompanied by Miss Elizabeth, against Rey Mysterio Jr. and Conan in the tag team hair vs. mask match, but Luger suffered a bicep injury at the hands of Rey Mysterio Jr. 3 days earlier on WCW Thunder and was immediately replaced by Scott Hall as Kevin Nash's tag team partner against Conan and Rey Mysterio Jr. in the tag team hair vs. mask match. Hollywood Hogan pinned Ric Flair after David Flair used a stun gun on Ric. SuperBrawl 2000 SuperBrawl 2000 took place on February 20, 2000 from the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. James Brown made a surprise appearance at the event, performing with Ernest Miller during his in-ring skit with the Maestro. SuperBrawl Revenge took place on February 18, 2001 from the Nashville Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee. This was the last SuperBrawl event and the penultimate WCW pay-per-view before the WWF purchased WCW in March 2001. Along with SuperBrawl Live E, it was one of only 2 SuperBrawls never released on home video. Kevin Nash pinned Scott Steiner after hitting him with the WCW title belt. Steiner pinned Nash after hitting him with a steel pipe. Finally, Steiner rendered Nash unconscious with a chair shot, followed by the Steiner recliner order of elimination. Yang pinned Karagias after a neckbreaker. 10:21. Noble pinned Zhang after a piledriver. 10:51. Moore pinned Noble after a super bottoms up. 11:58. Helms pinned Moore after a nightmare on Helm Street. 15:11. Helms pinned Hayashi after a vertebreaker. 17:30.